Hey guys, welcome to our 6th episode of KSU FSA's Couch Talk. Today I will be the host of our podcast. My name is Rose and I am the president for KSU FSA in case you guys didn't know. For this episode, I know the holiday season is a time when everyone is thinking about money, so I wanted to share my financial story on the spending habits and how my spending habits have changed and just giving you guys different tips on how you guys can start saving money for yourself. When I was growing up, both my parents were working and money was spent on essentials. My dad worked as a car salesman at our local car dealership, and my mom also worked as a nanny. So we didn't really have extra spending money for like big gifts or going on vacations every year, that kind of thing. So all the money that they did make was spent on the essentials. So while growing up, my parents were really good at budgeting and saving, and when I started working and earning my own money, those habits didn't really transfer over to me until about 3 years later to where I am now. So I kind of want to go into determining the difference between wants versus needs, because that's definitely something I'm going to be talking about today. So a little bit about what your wants and needs are. I first started trying to understand my personal wants and needs after I listened to this podcast a while back. It was called One Step, and basically the speaker talks about how she saw money as liquid, and she describes how she would get money and then just spend it right away, and that was exactly what I was doing. So when I started making my own money from my part-time job, I was super eager to spend it. I was so proud of myself for putting in work and earning my own money and being independent. And so when it came to saving, that's not something I did or I thought I really needed to do. Mainly because I do live at home, so I don't need to save. Well, in my mind, I didn't think I needed to save a ton of money because I didn't have to pay rent or bills and all of that. So I ended up having my take-home money being a really large amount and something I wasn't used to getting. So I was really reckless with my spending. And because I didn't have to budget for expenses like bills or rent or things like that, whenever I had this excess amount of money, my wants became my needs. So just to kind of go into detail about like the difference between your wants and your needs, when you say it out loud, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, your want is something you want and your need is what you need. Cool, right? But it can kind of be a gray area just because it varies person to person and everybody's kind of on their own little financial journey, if you will. So what are needs? Needs are pretty much the necessary expenses that are required for you to live or that are needed for you to work in order to survive. So when I'm going to be talking, I call the needs the essentials because they're essential for your survival. So like I said, these are going to be different between person to person, but generally speaking, essentials, they're going to be your expenses like groceries for food, utilities, rent, gas if you drive, tuition if you're in school, that kind of thing. Wants, on the other hand, are the expenses that make your life more comfortable and enjoyable. So there are things that you don't necessarily need in order to survive. So these are going to be things like traveling, eating out, shopping for different clothes, concert tickets, that kind of thing. So they're expenses that make you happy. So for me, a large part of my money was spent on wants, and I would trick myself into turning them into my needs. So pretty much a person like me who loves fashion, like I'm a fashion major here, and I worked in retail, so the temptation was so real. I overspent so much money on clothes that I thought I needed for my job, when in reality, they were just something that I thought I wanted, you know? So in retail, every month we get in new collections, and when you're working retail and you see that newness, pretty much every day you kind of talk yourself into being like, oh, that's cute. Like, oh, I could see how you could wear that. That's neat. And then you're seeing it like every single day, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I actually need this. So that was something that I kind of faced a lot. So there would be instances where I would see something, be like, oh my gosh, I need to have this because our district manager is visiting the store, and if I'm not presenting myself a certain way, or if I'm not dressing the brand, then she's not going to notice me, or customers aren't going to take me seriously, and that kind of thing. So because of my mindset in that way, I started to make these impulse purchases, and after making impulse purchases, I didn't have enough money to cover my essentials for the week. So for me, during this time, my essentials were food for the week, gas, and that was pretty much it. So whatever I started charging, so once I made all those impulse purchases, like I said, I didn't have enough money to cover most of my essentials. So I started charging money to my credit card and accumulating debt, which is a super bad habit, relying on your credit card. I can do like a whole other podcast on that area if you guys are interested. But like I said, I would really depend on my credit card to pay for those essentials. So gas and food, that's all I used my credit card for. And I would end up racking up like $300 to $600 a month that would need to be paid off, obviously, in order for my credit score not to go down. So I was in this place of an unstable, like, toxic cycle of spending money on impulse purchases and then spending money on things that were not the essentials, to the point where the money I would make the next couple of weeks, the money I would have needed for the essentials would just get paid on my credit card as payments. So basically I was just evening out. So the money I would be earning would just go to paying off debt. And I didn't really have excess money for the things that I really needed, like gas. So this was like a complete flip-flop on what I was used to growing up. Like I said, growing up, essentials were the main things that you focused on, and then you had your wants or like little things like going out to eat and that kind of thing. So I was focusing on spending all of my money on things that I thought I needed, when in reality they weren't. So once I started getting promotions and making more money, I was able to save more. But while I was saving money on the side and my larger salary was earning me more money, I thought I could afford more things. So I would rationalize, like, in my mind, oh, well, I can afford it, so I should just buy it, you know? And honestly, that's not a great way of viewing things either. I watched a video from Ingrid Nilsson. She was like an older YouTuber, and she's a blogger now. And she had this video, I can't remember what it was called, but she talks about how the media kind of communicates to women today, where we're seeing things like on social media all the time, and just things that's being communicated to us, where women can have these things and we can do all these things, right? So therefore we should just do all the things, you know, just go for it type of thing. And even though it's supposed to be positive messaging, and there are good intentions, it also just kind of rationalized my excess spending. So I was just kind of using that as an excuse to spend more money. So I would get in my head and be like, oh, you have to buy this, because if you don't have that item, then people aren't going to take you seriously. And I thought having all of these things would make me look more powerful or successful. And I was really just associating things like having designer items and like having a ton of clothes as positive attributes, because I was worried about how people were going to view me. I thought I had to look a certain way and own certain things in order to gain respect from others, to appear successful, or to like feel like a boss or whatever, and that's not the case at all. So honestly, it just took a lot of self-reflection, just trying to figure out why I felt the need to rely on what other people thought of me, and just kind of let that go, you know? So it kind of just, I just kind of sat down, just thinking about the things that I was spending my money on, just being like, well, if the things that I do own, I want them to be a reflection of me, and not the other way around. So as I was working more and I got promoted and I started making more money, I started finally self-reflecting on what I was spending versus what I was saving. Doing so, I was able to start a savings account, and my priorities did shift in the right direction. So the way that I start to handle my savings and things like that is I make sure to handle my essentials first, and then right after essentials have been covered, I save, and then I just kind of leave that excess for like any wants, that kind of thing. So with money, I know it's like a really touchy subject and things like that, but there is a difference. Like, you can find a balance between what you want and what you need, and so one of the ways to really achieve that balance is kind of just setting your own personal money goal. So for me, for example, my money goal is that I want to save $15,000 by the time I graduate in the spring. And so to do that, I have been doing two different things that have really kind of helped me get there. So one of the things that I have started doing is obviously starting a savings account. Savings is like, I'm not like giving you, this is not like official financial advice, okay? But honestly, savings is really one of the foundations to financial success. And so just really start a savings. Like, you can start a savings at any point in time right now. So really just going ahead and just starting it out. What I usually do in order to build up my savings and how I've been able to almost hit my goal of $15,000, I'll just be open. I'm not trying to brag or anything, obviously. I'm just kind of like telling you guys how I've been able to kind of save, and these are just the things that I've been able to do. But for me, I've been able to save $12,000 following these steps over the past year and a half. So these are just things that have worked really well for me. And hopefully you might be able to find some things that work out for you guys too. So, again, starting with your savings, the best way that I was able to build my savings was using the automatic transfer option on my banking app, or their website or whatever. I'm pretty sure any bank allows you to do an automatic transfer, but something you can do in your settings. It's really easy, and it's really beneficial. So the way that I do my automatic savings is I kind of just base the amount that I'm transferring in, depending on like how much money I'm going to be making or that I know I'll be making. So for example, when I was working minimum wage, I made $7.25, and I would work probably like 15 to 24 hours a week. So my take home pay was like, I would say it would be anywhere between $200 to $360, just depending obviously how many hours I worked. So from that $200 or $360, I would automatically transfer out $50, or I would automatically transfer out $100, just depending on how much money I would be making. So if I knew I'd be making more, I would transfer more money into the savings every paycheck. And one of the best things about automatic transfers is you're being able to save without thinking, because it just automatically takes it right out. So if I got a bonus, I would use that bonus and transfer it to the savings instead of, having all this extra money just to spend it, So this also helped me out with budgeting, just because I was able to work with whatever was left over. And part of having a great budget, I think, is just knowing what you will be spending. So why not save that money first? That way you're not going to be overspending, So how do I make a budget? So to start off, you're going to want to list all of your sources of income. These things can include like your part-time job, the take-home money from that, like summer employment, like if your parents send you money monthly. I know some of my friends, their parents will send them like an extra $200 a month, that kind of thing, or like student loans. So that's going to be your income for the month. And then you're going to want to look at costs that are fixed. So these are going to be things that don't really vary much, and they usually have due dates. So an example of a fixed cost would be like your tuition fees, because you have to pay those every semester. Maybe your car loan, credit cards, that kind of thing. Or like subscriptions if you have those. Those are going to be part of your fixed costs. So once you subtract your fixed costs from your total income, then you're going to know how much disposable income you have. And this is going to be left over for flexible costs that are irregular. So basically, this is going to be the money that you're going to use for like groceries, eating out, going to the movies, if you use transportation, like parking fees, personal care, like if you have to pay to do laundry, or if you go and get your nails done, healthcare, prescriptions, that kind of thing. And there are like so many different ways to track your spending in order to get your budget going. For me, I personally use this one website. It's called Personal Capital, and it breaks down every dollar you spend and categorizes your expenses into charts and graphs. So you can really visualize where all your money is going. And you would be surprised how much boba adds up, because it's a lot. So yeah, it's a great website. Some people are, if you're not comfortable like putting in your banking information, because it does ask for that way it kind of like breaks down and categorizes all of your transactions. There's plenty of like phone apps that you can use, or like budgeting worksheets online. There's a ton of those, or you can just do it old school, pen and paper, but whatever works for you. So what happens if you go over your budget? Well, this is obviously going to happen. Things happen outside of our control. Unexpected expenses pop up, or, sometimes we made our budget, and let's say our friend has a birthday and you want to go out to eat with them. Well, that wasn't working to your budget beforehand, and that's okay. So for me, if I know I'm going to spend too much money like on a Monday, I won't spend any money until like Thursday. That way on Tuesday and Wednesday, you're not adding more expenses that you weren't budgeted for. So it allows me to kind of skip a few days of spending. That way I can kind of get back on track with the budget for the month. So that's pretty much it. I know since we are in the holiday season, I know it can feel like we're being pressured with all the things that we can be buying, but just remember that you are in control of your spending habits, and you can make better spending decisions that will align with your personal financial goals. So by becoming mindful of your day-to-day choices and watching your spending, you will see your finances grow. Thanks for listening to Couch Talk, and we'll see you guys